So the next speaker we're going to have up is Jessie. She's part of our We the People program, and here she is.
Thank you. I did not plan to speak today. I got tapped in. I'm supposed to be later towards the end, so I'm going to do my thank yous now. Thank you to everybody that came out today. We need to give a big shout out first and foremost. Thank you, Sierra, for getting the conversation started, getting the We the People going. It's the soft-spoken soldier right there that stepped up to the plate. Thank you very much, baby. All right. I have worked very hard over the years to avoid politics. Like walk away from a college education and start grooming dogs. Avoidance. I'd rather let a dog chew all over me than walk through the red tape and smile and nod and play nice. Unfortunately, our elected leaders have dropped the ball. And they came into my town and came into my school and decided to mess with my children. And that is the line I do not allow to be crossed. So after I spoke at the first school board meeting, I'm from Redbud. I'm originally from Chaplain Bridge, Maidstone area, so I'm homegrown. So I went to that first school board meeting and I challenged our school board in Redbud to stand up to Governor Pritzker. And I basically told them to let their balls drop, tighten their broad straps, and let Pritzker know that we can make our own local decisions, which they did, and I was very grateful. Which led me all the way to Springfield to our Illinois State Board of Education. The way I figure it, if you're going to go to your school board and is stepping up to the plate, you are obligated to do the same. So I went and I gave Illinois State Board of Education a piece of my mind and told them I did not appreciate them threatening my school board. I told them I did not appreciate them painting my children in a broad brushstroke. Each of our children are individual. That's why they each have their own parents so that we can make our best decisions and our best risk analysis on their behalf. Those parental instincts were given to us for a reason, and that is something no elected official can touch. I went back after Illinois State Board of Education meeting, and I listened at our next meeting where the high schoolers came and showed up and spoke on behalf of the mask mandate. They weren't fighting for the health care. They weren't scared of COVID. That was the one thing that I continuously picked up from these students. They were more concerned with doing what they had to do so they could go on about their business. I understood our school board voting to fall in line. You can't argue with 20 high school students. I can't compete with that. The problem I found with this arrangement was those high school students are the same ones that are capable of pulling it under their chin. They're the same ones that know how to cheat the system the same as any adult does. So, the ones that were punished the most were our elementary students. The ones that are people pleasers and just want to do what their teachers and their parents want them to do. You know, most of the time. Our children's mental health, it exists. And the reason we have politicians out here today is because our elected officials have a responsibility. They have a responsibility to make the hard decisions. They have a responsibility to communicate why they have to make the hard decisions. But right now, our elected officials tend to back away from any confrontation. The louder they scream, the more they back down. And polite civilians like ourselves, we don't want to rock the boat. We want to go along to get along. And that is partially our responsibility for why we are where we are. In a few minutes, Mr. DeVore is going to get up here, and he sent us an email the other day, and we put ourselves in a quagmire because we have allowed this to continue for almost 2 years. Everybody was afraid to say something that first year, and here we are, well into our second, and now we've boxed ourselves in, and we have to speak up. We have to speak to our politicians, and we have to start looking for our public servants, the ones that are willing to stand up and make the hard decisions, communicate the hard information. You cannot punish our vulnerable or punish our healthy to protect the vulnerable. That's not our job. When I started speaking, I had a parent from Columbia reach out to me. Her daughter is immune deficiency. And when I brought up, she wanted to know why I was speaking up. And I said, the mask mandates, I'm not knocking the cards you were dealt. I'm not. I said, but how is it you want to put a mask on my kid that doesn't actually protect yours? Because they're not N95s. None of the masking that they're doing, I'm digressing. My son yesterday, I had to speak with the assistant principal. The music teachers decided that she's going to determine which mask the kids are allowed to sing in. Singing in a mask. Can anybody explain this to me? She started making the kids switch their masks out because I have fake masks on my kids. Because they do the same thing as any other mask, in my opinion. My daughter, who sings, she conformed with no problem. My 10-year-old, on the other hand, absolutely hates things on his face. I mean, I couldn't get him to wear a scarf if I drug him around in snow on a four-wheeler. I mean, he just hates stuff on his face. So she hands him his mask that she wants him to wear and asks him to remove the mask that I have provided. And he looks at her. And he just looks at her and he takes the mask, he crumples it up, throws it at her feet and says no. And while I am so incredibly proud of this, I am so incredibly hurt and angry that he was placed in that position. He has responsibility to get good grades and learn to be a good human being. He shouldn't have to worry about protecting his own personal space and fighting a battle. And in that regard, I felt extremely guilty because I stayed silent for so long. So as I'm speaking to the assistant principal and he's explaining this to me, I promptly responded with, I will gladly discuss littering on public property with my son. The assistant principal continued and asked me, so are you telling me that your face mask that you provide your son provides the same security that the music teacher wanted? And I said, I would encourage you to go look at the box in your office that you hand out to all your teachers to share. I'm fairly certain there is a disclaimer on the box in regards to COVID. So if that mask does not protect against COVID, what is the difference between the mask that I have my child in? And he had no response. So then he brought forth the fact that there were more rebellions occurring between, not even in the elementary, but it's creeping up into the junior high and high school. And he said, well, if we let them get away with this and we do not police it, then we are condoning disrespectful behavior. And I replied, what about the parents that are teaching their children to stand up for their beliefs, stand up to bullies, and have a backbone so that peer pressure does not eat them up by the time they get into vulnerable situations? And he said, well, we're going to have these students for 5 to 10 years. And I said, okay, I understand your concern in that regard. But now, those same students you're having 5 to 10 years, you're socially delaying them by masking them. That's already proven. Their inability to read social cues, facial expressions. I was like, so you basically compounded the issue that you're trying to avoid, and you've doubled the problem. To which he had no response. So after an hour-long debate, we got off the phone, and I expressly requested that he not allow them to switch the masks. Whether that happens or not remains to be seen, but I'm a very loud mother when it comes to my children, so we're gonna find out. The point of all of this is my children have been fortunate enough to grow up in my grooming shop. They have been exposed to germs upon germs upon germs, and I'm fortunate enough that they can live that lifestyle with me, and they've adapted. But I've been asked to risk their good immune system by these blanket rules. And something in my heart is screaming that we cannot stay silent anymore. We just can't. We have to demand public servants and not politicians. Our school board is designed to be our local voice. Kelton Davis wants to tell us, oh, we got to go higher. No, we start from the ground up and we demand it locally and we start going up. I don't care what political party you are a part of. You are either a public servant or a politician, and I'm no longer electing politicians. I'm looking for public servants. So when we have politicians up here, ask the questions. We have to listen to them speak because we have to know what they're about. And then we have to demand that they be what they say they are, that they are the public servants they claim they want to be. And when you're a public servant, you make the tough decisions. You communicate why you have to make those tough decisions. You don't talk at people, you talk to people. And you can't make decisions about local communities without listening to your local community. And when you have to listen to your local community, you don't just listen to the ones screaming the loudest. You go to that quiet corner and you start talking to the people that are sitting back and observing. You have to have well-rounded information to make well-rounded decisions. And somewhere along the lines, our elected leaders have forgotten that. Sierra has done an amazing job opening the line of communication between different people with different viewpoints. I jokingly call her my flower child. She would rather talk and be sweet, I'd rather swing and argue. But it's the combination of our abilities that allow us to have a well-rounded conversation and open the information so that we can all make the best decisions for our children and ourselves. That is our responsibility. It's not to tell somebody else how to live their life. It's to recognize that each pack is different. I can groom dogs and I can bathe them in generic shampoo. Any dog can safely be bathed in Dawn dish detergent. Problem is that some have softer skin, so there's different reactions. The same can be said for masking. What is adaptable for one child is not for another. This is why, when it comes to health decisions, we have to have options. We have to be able to make our own risk assessments. And when they brought politics into our school, they did it on the premise that it was for health. Okay? The problem is you don't get to make the health decisions for my children. We have to learn to communicate to other parents that believe strongly in things that we do not. Because we can't have my parental instincts fighting with yours. There was a debate that same music teacher has quotedly told classes that they have to wear the proper mask and the right mask because she's pregnant and she doesn't want her baby to die. That kind of converse, that crap does not need to be said. That is not a burden for our children to carry. That is your job as a pregnant mother to decide the best way to protect your child. And if you feel like that's a big ass threat, then you can take your happy on butt home to quarantine. You do not get to put that death sentence on my children's head. No teacher has the right to guilt our children for their beliefs. That is inappropriate and irresponsible. And that is why we have to stand up. It has to stop. That's it. That's why we've hired an attorney. And the process is slow, but we have allowed it to be slow because we stood by so silently. So now we have to stand loud and proud and hold steady and strong. It's required. And when we listen to politicians, we have to ask the right questions. We have to demand the accountability, and we have to ensure that when we send them and we elect them, that they are public servants. And if they fail to live up to that responsibility, then we elect their happy butts on out. Open the conversation. Listen to your children. Mr. Vore is going to get up here and speak. He's done a great job rallying, and I have no doubt that he has his own frustrations. He started trying to rally groups well over a year ago, and most of us just kind of waited and bided our time. We gave our local school districts the option in the second school year to make the right decisions. And for the most part, they did. That was something when I went to Springfield that I found out. There were so many superintendents that were up there to fight for local control. They had way better plans, like for mask optional, like they had it broken down by the percentages of infection rates. Do you know not one person from any of the 4 local school districts went to that meeting? Last year, when the state sent the mandates and the recommendations, they called the superintendents and the district superintendents and discussed health plans. This past school year, when they started, the schools came out with their reopen plans. And until the state saw that there were so many masking optionals, there was no mandate. All of a sudden, Pritzker came down with a sweeping mandate to mess with every school district. The problem was our local school districts refused to speak up, and they left it to us. And now they want to get frustrated with us for speaking up because they're in a rock and a hard spot. Well, you can only straddle a fence so long before you have to pick a side. We need to make sure that our school boards and our local elected leaders pick a side. You're either a public servant or an ass-kissing politician. Pardon my French, but that's just the way it is. So I'm asking you, take an interest in politics because that is our defense for our children. The quality of elected leaders we put into office comes down, and their policies affect our children, in case we haven't taken notice this last couple of years. So look for your public servants, get them into office. Don't settle for what any political party puts in front of you. They either put somebody of quality up or we go find somebody of quality. Our children deserve the best, and that unfortunately means we have to get involved in our communities and in our elected elections. We just have to. Standing by, it's not us that pays the price because we all figure out how to cheat the system. It affects our children. So it's time we get involved.